Okay, you're
Don't
live.
need any more.
You're live. You're live.
All right, this is Senate Transportation, and we're back live, and you're on.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Joel Perigo. I am the V-Trans Municipal Assistance Program Manager. I'm picking up from where I left off last Thursday on budget testimony. I'll share the screen. And we left off on town highway aid slides. So just to reiterate, the town highway aid appropriation in the budget this year is 31.24 million. General aid for town highways class 1, 2, and 3. And I did do a breakdown. It's the statute requires 60% of the appropriation goes to class 1 town highways, which equates to $13,485 per mile, a total of 139 miles plus in the state. 44% of the appropriation to class 2 town highways, which equates to $4,915 per miles, just about 2,800 miles in the state. And then the remainder, 50% of the appropriation goes to class 3 town highways, which equates to $1,831 per mile. And there's approximately 8,500 miles in the state.
I would just break in and say to the committee, the other thing that I think we're going to have to talk about is, would we put in the T-bill something to do with pilot and the local option taxes to try to move it in this area?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Those are all decisions that I see us having to make over this 12-day period.
The only other part of this is the supplemental, which is just when there's class 1 town highways that have an additional lane like separate
So the increase we see in this is what percentage? Because it's based on formula.
is based on a formula that's written in the statute. And it's the minimum of, this is a real test, the CPI index versus the change in the overall transportation budget, I believe. Is that,
Okay.
and that increase you see represents that minimum increase.
We're talking about what, like 800,000?
Correct. And I did provide that spreadsheet for your use. It does break every single town down by their mileage. And if you put in the 31 million at the top in the brownish color, it'll show you what each town will get total. And they receive those in quarterly payments. And then there's another cell that you can actually enter a number to say if we were going to add some money, what that might look like as a result.
And this is the one they can use for basically anything.
Yes, improvements, maintenance. Yes.
Vehicles.
Yeah, the only requirement is that their local budget must equate to a minimum of $300 per mile of those certified mileages in order to be eligible for this program.
They could even buy like a chip.
I believe so, as long as it's considered a maintenance, a highway improvement maintenance.
But you can't purchase any infrastructure like a building or.
If it was a highway.
Salt shed.
I think
I think they could. I mean, we're paying for those as part of our other grant programs as under highway maintenance.
We can do a skating.
Right.
So,
Can I?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
What's the
You're
name
on
of
the
road?
select board.
Yes.
Can you use your aid for your town garage?
Yes. So the way, again, the way we deal with this is just a revenue source that goes into the highway budget. So anything that's within the highway budget, right, it's tangible money at that point.
Yeah.
And so, whether the dollar came from taxes or town highway aid, kind of gets all convoluted and there's no specific tracking.
So something that might test this is when we have more stormwater utilities of towns, those would likely be in the highway budget. But stormwater is part of maintaining highways. So that just could get interesting. But I just wanted to ask a different question. We heard from folks from your area about the total cost and the state aid, and my recollection is it was 6% of the cost, and that's this program, right? I just want to double check.
Yep, that's
Okay.
this program.
All right. Oh, what a coincidence. It's 6% of it. I mean, only 6%.
All right. Next program is under tab 24. In the book, it's a single line item. 6.14 million. But it houses 3 separate grant programs. 2 of them are on this slide, and there's a following slide. So most of these programs, or all of them, are for municipalities' compliance with the MRGP or alignment with the Clean Water Act. We do projects for MS4 communities through the federally funded portion, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Better Roads program is 1.4 million, 1.44 million of that 6.1. It's annual grant program. Majority of that funding, 1 million, comes from the Clean Water Fund. The remaining 440 is in transportation funds. The $1 million is granted for projects related to the MRGP and supports that have the compliance with that.
What are REI?
REIs are road erosion inventories, and so there was a initial cycle as part of the permit requirements to do a road erosion inventory, and then when that permit was reauthorized, or was it maybe 2 years ago now? I can't remember exactly. There was a new methodology, and many of the segments had to be re-inventoried, and so we funded a lot of those inventories through this program. The remaining $440,000 is reserved for in-stream culvert replacements of 36 inches and above.
And Clean Water Fund, this is the Clean Water Fund that's funded through the transfer tax.
It's the transfer tax. It's like
So
the unrecurring bottle deposit.
Yeah.
It's
And capital funds
from
from the capital bill.
you put money into the.
There's a lot of money in that. Yes.
It's an annual, does it have
It's a
CPI
pretty,
or anything like that, or go up? over
it
time?
seems relatively stable.
But is it for specific projects or just the Clean Water?
At the capital bill level, we just do the revenue, and then there's a process for them to, there's a Clean Water Board that decides how to spend it.
But you guys get a note if that's okay.
for that particular program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the board decides that we'll give transportation.
Correct.
And are we gonna get to the point where you don't need it, like that, all the towns have their MRGPs and.
But we talked about that a little bit last time. It's like, most of this work is occurring on gravel roads, and so you're starting in one point, and by the time you finish one road, the other road that you fixed already,
It'll be an ongoing.
it's ongoing.
But it should be at a lower level, maintenance.
The permit calls for full compliance by 2030, or maybe it was 2036, but there's a date in the permit that it requires for a full compliance.
Right, but then we're full compliance, just meaning all towns have their roads.
Right.
Do you think we're gonna get there now? You think?
That's not a question for me. That's more for DEC.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're funding only a portion of what's happening here, so.
Do we still provide assistance to the town's technical assistance?
As part of these projects, correct? Yeah, we have staff that meet with towns. And,
Yeah.
I mean, these are very like low dollars, simple fixes. Generally, they're maintenance type projects. Ditching, cross culvert for disconnection practices, those sorts of things.
So can I add something here? So when more towns have stormwater utilities, they can use the revenue from the stormwater utilities to pay for these things.
And then the funding by formula, not this for that, but
Yeah.
that is for all towns or just?
Yep, so the next program is the grants and aid program, and that's been level funded at $3 million that comes through the clean water budget as well. But with that being said, we've had, because of the 2 years of flooding, we had a lot of forfeited and canceled projects that resulted in us actually making much greater awards than 3 million the last couple of years just to roll over. But it's a formula driven program. So each town has a documented mileage of hydrologically connected road segments. And we take the total amount, we make initial offers to every single town under the permit of X amount of dollars. They reply with their letter of intent, whether they want to roll the program for that particular year or not. Based on their enrollment, we then recalculate that formula and send out the final awards and grants. I mean, they range anywhere from $6,000 in the very, very small towns to, 50 to 60,000 on any given year. And I do have some data that shows what that's buying, like how much, how many segments are being brought into compliance with that sort of figure. The participation in the program, I put in 237 last year. It's pretty much stayed right about there. Moves up one or two, or up or down one or two every year. That's about it. And the picture is sort of what you see is what you're buying with either one of these Better Roads grants or the grants and aid programs. Bringing your road crown into place, adding gravel, stone line ditching, stone check dams,
Which supports both clean water, but also supports better road.
maintenance. Correct. Yeah. The next part of the program is the municipal highway and stormwater mitigation program, which is a federally funded portion. And so these projects are advertised alongside the transportation alternatives program, uses the same eligibility, intended to be for larger scale, engineered projects. The project in the left is in Fairhaven, was a rain garden near downtown. And then the other part of it is that V-Trans pays stormwater utility fees to the various municipalities. So that's what we budget for it.
So those towns are.
It's for our roadways, our parking lots, our buildings, everything.
But it goes for the state highway. If you have a state highway in those towns, you gotta pay.
Right.
You bill it.
Right.
Because it's based on local.
Impervious, yeah, I thought that was mostly the interstate fees. But it's for all V-Trans?
I believe that's for all of V-Trans within those towns, but I can confirm. that.
Okay, that's interesting. But if you could give us the interstate fees by town, that would be.
Sure.
And it won't be necessarily the same amount, like they might have the same amount of road, but the way that the towns do the stormwater utilities, it's a different amount per unit by the town. The town gets to decide that, and they might change it year to year. So it wouldn't be the same cost to be like if you have 10 miles in one town and 10 miles in another town, they're not gonna be the same.
It's the same, right?
They're different.
Yeah.
I was- I
Yeah,
know we had.
Colchester, yeah.
Yeah, so I paid $58 a year for my driveway,
right.
my roof, I guess.
And your, yeah,
So
Your house in the store.
my house. Yeah, it's on every.
and that's a good deal. And sometimes around it's like 100, some 120, but
Does your store have to pay? Do you still have to store?
I don't have it anymore, but yeah, I did have to pay
Well, commercial.
a little more.
yeah, because usually the commercial ones are, there's not a standard. Usually single family home, you have a standard for single family homes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to measure everyone.
And then we are into 10G reports. Some of these programs I covered in testimony the last time, but So these are projects that are coming into the book for the first time, new projects in the state fiscal year 27. So these are projects that were selected through grants since the last time you saw the book.
What's the total dollar amount on that? If Pat wanted to have them then.
Yeah, I don't have a dollar in this.
I want to see how much paving we could get done, which wouldn't be much, I'll bet.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, those are all small.
I-
So our program awards in the I can go back up.
Totals how much?
These are all state.
In Bike Ped in 25, it was 5.7 million of federal awards and 307,000 of state awards.
307,000 state awards. That wouldn't go very far.
But that's just one category.
This is all Bike Ped.
You might get it to 4 of those.
Going
And
back.
that NG report is just for bike and ped.
Well, the next part is,
Oh.
so that's the Bike Ped program and then a continuation of that. And then project added from the Transportation Alternatives Program. Park and ride
The ones
lots.
that don't have a description, like the Rutland City just had.
I'm guessing it's probably a scoping study. So,
I don't need to know, but there was a blank on the other.
yeah,
And in the report, does it have the dollar amount?
in the book, it would have dollar amounts in the book, yeah. Yeah, so you could follow like the Glover TAP, TA 25/7, salt shedded, you could go to that, and you could see the, that's correct.
So you showed the Fairhaven thing on for stormwater mitigation. That's a state product, that's state,
That was federal
is that
and
100%?
local, no, it's 80/20.
80/20 to the town, not
20
the
to the,
state.
20 to the town, correct.
So anytime I see crossings and projects in Burlington, that's 80/20, that's.
If it's something that we're funding through Bike Ped or Transportation Alternatives, is 80% federal and 20% local.
So you're not funding it at all, state money.
State money, no, there's no state money. There is, I will say, there's some legacy projects in the program where there's some small amount of state dollars still.
You spend.
From back in like the 2014, 2015 era, there was a time when we were providing 10% of the match. Yeah, there's still some of those in there, but not many.
And the money runs through V-Trans, so there's some staff.
Correct. So there is some staff time where our personnel charges to the project, and there's some state match for that piece, but it's very minor in comparison.
Good.
Park and ride lots, the Colchester is the one at exit 17, and then the other two that you see there are actually municipally owned lots. And then the rest area is a scoping in the Highgate area.
What are you doing in the Cambridge? Is that the one on 15?
It wouldn't likely be on 15 because it's a municipal lot.
Oh, they're doing a municipal one.
Yeah,
Oh, that in the village of Jeff?
I'd have to look into exactly what that is.
Now that would be good.
Yeah.
But here's my question, and state highway going through a village. What generally is the width of the highway?
I think it varied widely from village to village, but the standard with 11.
So again, there's some variance here, but generally 11 is the minimum.
11 feet from the center line?
11 feet to the white line, and then I think it's a 2-foot shoulder as a minimum, so it'd be 13 feet total paved is
From the white line on the outside,
correct. So yellow line, the white line is a minimum of 11 feet. And I think we have a 2-foot shoulder. So total paved would be roughly 13 feet as our desired minimum, but there could be some grandfathered stuff, or there's certainly stop water as well.
um,
And then they own more land after that. That's not good. As far as the right of way.
Yeah, we generally, again, a lot of jags,
Yeah.
but let's just say on average, it's a 3-rod right of way, which is roughly 50 feet.
so, see, the only reason I asked that in relation to this is through the village of Jeff, it's always a problem because people park in the apartment buildings in the village don't have any parking. So they park on the state highway, which is the main street through the village. This parking ride will be the first time there's any parking in the village that allows somebody that has an apartment to have a place to park and not get ticketed in the winter, because everybody gets ticketed in the winter. And the problem is they have no place to go. So this parking ride will be a big deal. They usually hand out 30 tickets and I get screamed at.
It's revenue. The town,
That's why I asked.
interesting. And is Highgate, is that a new, welcome
It
center?
would be a new one, so correct. Yeah.
All right. Think about charging stations when you're looking at a new one.
Sure.
So where's the welcome center again?
Well, this is scoping, so this is trying to figure out the location
Yeah.
of that facility.
So we've identified a location actually in the median between northbound and southbound. Maybe 3 years ago, there was a study done to look at 3 or 4 different alternatives. Most of them fell through, and this is the tentative chosen location where we're going to do a scoping study to understand exactly.
Would that mean close George Fairfax?
That's one of those questions that the DGS commissioner at first asked me, and I don't know how to answer that.
Why? Is it a requirement that, are the feds after us or public outcry or something?
I think it's a long-standing policy preference. Certainly the chair of the house could weigh in on that, and I think.
Huh.
So what,
the
the have one?
secretary-
Wonder where he's from.
And I think the secretary could talk about, how long has it been a preference of the administration as well.
Because there isn't one, tell you the Willis.
Actual welcome center, I think that's fair.
Mhm.
So is that, so we literally north of Swan.
Yeah.
Did you get north this morning?
So we originally, we had originally looked at the Port of Entry, because we did have something there at one point in time. Quite honestly, GSA wasn't that cooperative. And then we looked at a couple locations, actually right off the Swanton exit. But that was a little bit out of the way. And we've tentatively identified an area in the median. Obviously, that would be new for us. You've done them a bunch. So, yeah, it's just open. I mean, realistically, construction is a way.
I'm gonna get myself in trouble if I open my head, but.
Yeah, I will. To Senator Brennan's point, maybe money wise, we did apply for and have high degree of confidence we'll get a Northern Borders grant for this scoping study.
I could check on that, but I believe we did get it.
Was it announced? I may have forgotten, but
So the next question is, how much does one of those cost these days?
you know, well.
Yeah. Tens of millions.
And
Yeah,
if we're talking about connections to the north, a railroad, I mean, the Montrealer is very desirable to a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Getting that,
yeah, and I think they're working on that. There's a whole,
Well, that's with how many miles is that from Georgia Fairfax that's already there? 10 miles?
I would guess 10 to 15.
15. And if I was, but I'm just gonna, if I was thinking on the interstate, I want something south of, you've got the interstate coming down, but you want it south of 78 because that's all the traffic coming over from upstate New York.
Yeah.
And so what's our standard distance between rest areas?
It's really
I
long.
think it changed when we started.
Yeah. I don't think there is, and I think we're moving, and again, I can't say, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we're building any new rest areas, it seems to be more the welcome center model.
I don't think we're any worse than other states because you can travel in New York and where they closed a few. Sometimes they're like boom, boom, boom. Sometimes they're 75 miles apart.
So what's the difference between the welcome center you're doing and the rest area?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you look at a welcome center, whether it be on Route 4 or 91 or 89, right, the Williston, the welcome center is much more elaborate than the Georgia Fairfax Festival.
Are there restrooms at the Georgia?
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's a showcase.
Are they going, are they going, are you going, what are they talking about doing with, Albert?
Yeah, there's a rest area there.
That's a welcome center.
Oh, that is.
Think,
That's a different.
In Alberg?
yeah,
There rest area there?
on 78.
Oh, and so
There was a whole wind turbine there at one point.
Oh, but
That's what I know, but.
just,
Oh, yeah.
just across the, I guess I don't know where.
I'm trying to.
It's just, if you're going, out of the village, or to, and it's right there on the right.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
That's by that
the four
missile
corners.
thing,
Are
right?
you talking the four corners there?
Well, kind of, yeah,
Yeah. That's a state.
Yeah, it is, it's,
Well, it's a state building, I know that.
I don't have that work in my district, by the way. Everything thinks I do, but I don't.
All right, you should.
yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to figure out. It's on North Main Street in the village. Keep going, I'll look this up and at the end,
All right.
talk about it.
The next report on 10G is any projects that have increased by more than 5 million or 75% of the estimate in fiscal year 26. In cases like these, it's just that these projects received more funding through us. So they probably got to the point where they had an estimate that came in much higher than the original funding that we provided. They reapplied through one of our programs and were provided some supplemental funding, and therefore that jumped up above that 75%. Certainly not the 5 million.
Here's the picture.
Oh, that's
It's that look happening.
Oh,
Yeah. Little lock tennis. I gave him a grant for this,
and then the next
for my station. Years ago.
part is the projects that are coming out of the book. So the projects that were completed. Under bike ped, park and rides, transportation alternatives. And then these are projects that have increased by more than 10 million, or again, 100% from the preliminary plan estimate. Same thing as before. There was an estimate in our system at the time of preliminary plans, and the towns would have received additional funding, with the exception of the rest area in between. The Guilford was a project that we completed last year that had some, we had to remove the pavers and do sidewalks and specialized work. We had heated sidewalks with that project. And so it was a bad estimate on that piece. And then that's it.
Questions?
I'll just add as sort of a sneak peek, there is some language in the T-bill to alter some of the requirements within the Transportation Alternatives Program that help clear some of the backlog of our unobligated funds for that and to increase some flexibility for towns to make those grants a little bit more advantageous. So we fully supported that change.
You still have a lot of towns that get the grant and look at the process and give it back,
Generally, I think
or apply for the grant,
I think they get the money and then they get partway through the process and realize it's more onerous and more expensive than they thought, and then they give the money back.
Okay. Do they have to give you back what you started with, or if you're good for as far as they went, then they're.
Well, so there's thresholds, and this is part of, you've got to work with RPC system to clean that up. The feds have various thresholds right of way. They don't have to give back PCE money, so that's preliminary engineering money, but if they've spent any money on the right of way, they do. If they spent any money on construction, they do. But we're kind of cleaning that up because they changed the rules in IIJA, so there's a disconnect between what the federal law says, what our agreements say. And so part of the work this summer will be to make all of that consistent.
Are the new design standards in effect? Are they?
No, so the review ended weeks ago, I'll just say 2-3 weeks ago. There were thousands of comments from what I understand. And I think we actually have a meeting with a consultant in the non-distant future just to talk about how to address those and move forward. So I don't have a time frame for when those comments will be addressed and what will probably be another draft will be published.
So is the goal to have it in a year?
Well, I think the goal was to have it by the end of the summer, but given the
Last summer?
No, this summer.
Okay.
So the original timeframe, I think, was to have it by the end of this summer. Given the volume of comment, we've got to look at if that's feasible or not. I don't know. It might still be. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, we can't have you till. Yeah. If the middle of the next week,
We'll look at the calendar.
that would be good.
I think we have to have the conference committee on the budget. I mean, just, I think the Senator Deacon's got like that president.
Do you want to,